Blah, blah, blah. We are live. Hello, welcome to Near Mint Book Club. If it's your first time joining us, my name is Alana. I've got Mandy beside me. Tommy's in the dark room by himself for some reason. And then below me is the guest of this week's episode, who is Kyle Higgins. Hello, Kyle. So this week we read Invincible, which is a book published by Skybound Comics by Robert Kirkman and has art by Ryan Ottley and Corey Walker. And it was a pick of Kyle's, which is super exciting. And so we're going to be talking about that book today. We will be going into spoilers in just a moment. So if you haven't read it, make sure you do read the book or just join us and hang out. We are reading our comments. So if you have a live comment, we would love to see you. I see that Kelly is just trying to finish the book there in the comments, and we just lost Tommy. And that means that my banner messed up. So
don't worry. I love being behind Donnie Cates.
You love, yeah, just always slightly behind. No, I'm just kidding.
Tommy will probably have technical difficulties because of losing power. Like he's working off a generator, isn't he?
I think so. Yeah, a tree fell. So now
tree fell on his house or power line
next to his house. Yeah. Anyways, there we go. Now Kyle is bigger than Donnie Cates, as he should be.
Oh, there you go. Trust me, Donnie's not watching right now.
I know. We're all jokes. We're all friends, so it's just a big joke. But anyways, just the mention of Donnie Cates is that next week we're going to be reading God Country, which is a book.
Don't plug Donnie's book on my episode. What is wrong with you? Is there no decorum on the internet anymore?
No, obviously not. Anyways, this has gotten off track. If you're watching us later on, sorry that it's a madhouse, but feel free to still comment. We'll still try to respond to them when we can, which is awesome. Cool. So what we're going to talk about first is we're going to talk about Kyle, because he's the best. So Kyle Higgins, in case you don't know, is a comic book writer. He has quite a few things that he's done, like big things. So you worked on Power Rangers was one of your big ones. What else have you worked on, Mr. Kyle?
I wrote Nightwing for about 3 years. I did all the New 52 Nightwing. I did Batman Eternal and Gates of Gotham. I just did a Winter Soldier book for Marvel last year, or maybe it was the year before. I did Power Rangers for like 3 years and Shattered Grid, and there was a ton of stuff connected to that I ended up writing as well. And now I'm doing Ultraman for Marvel. And then I have like 4 or 5 creator-owned books that I'm doing as well.
Yeah.
None of which are announced yet. But
you've done Cowl, which is very well reviewed, and then Hadron's Wall.
Hadrian's Wall, yeah. So we did Cowl, did Hadrian's Wall, I did The Dead Hand. Those are all at Image, and then I edited a series called Self-Made. That's also an Image book.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you have definitely seen Kyle around if you've been to a comic book shop. I even saw him. I sent him a little picture the other day. I was in the regular bookstore, and they have the wall of the like top 10 books recommended by the people that work in the store, and I saw Cowl up there.
Oh, is that where that was from? I didn't actually know where that was from.
That's awesome. It was like Lisa recommends it or something, and I
figured you staged it and you just put up a sign with like you just picked a name. And
I mean, I would do that, but no, that was a genuine find out in the world. So someone out there likes Cowl, which I have not read yet because somebody keeps telling me he's going to give me issue 1, and you gave me issue 2.
What? You mean volume? Volume?
Yeah.
I have volume 1, Elena. You can borrow it.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Anyways. That one's cool because it's about Chicago. That's all I know.
I'm glad someone supports my work on this podcast. Are we technically a podcast? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I think
we do.
No.
Yeah.
Lana, what's your email?
AlanaWaffles@gmail.com.
Is it really?
Yeah.
To the world.
I need this link right now.
Tommy might be here now. I don't know.
He's not in my little thing, so we'll see. But
Wait,
anyways.
Is it ALANNA?
No, just one N. ALANA. Cool. So we have Chris and Kelly in here already, which is awesome. So hi to you both. Chris just said that he really liked your run, Kyle, on Nightwing and Gates of Gotham. He really wants to read Power Rangers because he's heard great things about it. And he really wishes that those beautiful hardcovers were in print. So that's nice.
Thank you very much.
And then Spells and Monsters said, huge fan of new 52 Nightwing. I think that's Kelly, but I think she just switched accounts. So, yeah.
Who's Kelly?
One of our people. So
one of our regulars. Yeah.
I just emailed you Cowl. Did you get it? I want to make sure I sent it. There wasn't a second waffle spelling that I don't know about.
Yes, I have it. Thank you, Kyle.
You're very welcome.
Now by next week I'll have read Cowl 1 and 2.
Make sure to talk about it on Donnie's episode.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll love that.
I don't think he'll come on. We'll see.
No.
We're just gonna talk about a book he wrote. Yeah. Can you imagine?
I'll for that then.
Yeah, you'll come on next week.
Hey, stop.
Is that a child or an animal?
No, that's a child.
Madness.
I'm sorry.
Madness. It's okay. Anyways, okay, so that's who Kyle is. And so what we're reading today is Invincible. And so the synopsis, spoiler-free synopsis is, this is not really a synopsis. Pulled up the wrong page. Okay, my own personal synopsis is that it is about a teenage boy who, within the first couple pages, you kind of realize that he not only is like gaining superpowers, you know, a la X-Men through puberty, whatever, but it's genetic, and it's actually because his father is a superhero as well. And so it's kind of just a superhero story, but about the family as well as coming from this different perspective of that it's like a family job, or like they're kind of used to it. So the mom's like, "What'd you do today?" And he's like, "I think I can fly now." And she's like, "Cool, awesome. So like, do you want some more food?" So it's kind of a really cool take on the superhero genre. And it is by Robert Kirkman, who is most notably known for The Walking Dead, among many other things. So yeah, that is what we read this week. So from now on, we will probably be talking spoilers for all of Volume 1, which is issues 1 through 4. So if you do not want to hear any more spoilers, please come back. This will be permanently up here on YouTube. So come back whenever you're ready. Otherwise, let's continue on. So Kyle, why did you recommend this book?
Well, it's funny because I'm only realizing, like, in this moment how little happens in the first trade. I read the book for the first time actually during quarantine. I got a hold of all the hardcover volumes and I read it. I read all 144 issues, and I love it. Like it's kind of my favorite thing I've read in a long time. And I actually don't read that many comics anymore, as I find, which is kind of just sad when you think about it, and to think about how important they used to be to me growing up. But it's kind of the nature of this kind of, I guess, work that I do. You do kind of read less as a fan, because especially superhero stuff, usually like work for hire stuff, like I'll read a book and I'll either be annoyed at how good it is, or I'll be annoyed that I didn't get the job. So it's like it makes it a little tricky sometimes. But Invincible for me, it's such a celebration of the superhero genre, and it is unabashedly a love letter to superhero comics as a monthly storytelling medium. Or genre within a medium, but monthly superhero comics to me are kind of like a medium unto themselves, and it's tough because the first 4 issues don't even get to what the series really is about. Do you guys care if I spoil it?
Like the future stories, or maybe a little bit.
Okay, let's do a secondary spoiler warning and say that you can spoil a little bit more, and if you want to, please walk away or come back and I'll try to let you know. But you can spoil a little bit, Kyle.
Mark's father in a I think it's issue 5 or 6, so it's very soon after here. Mark's father murders the entire superhero team that is the equivalent of the Justice League, and you learn that Mark's father is actually an agent of the Viltrumite Empire sent to conquer Earth.
Oh. Cool.
And that just kicks off what the series ends up becoming. And I mean, Kirkman's pitch for it always was like, son of Superman. So it's like a Superman cross with Peter Parker. And so it's really cool to see some of the ways that they utilize the medium. These first 4 issues are all drawn by Cory Walker, who co-created the book with Robert. And then I think it's at issue 8, Ryan Stegman takes over, and then Stegman stays on for the entirety of the 144 issue run, with the exception of like select issues and moments that Cory Walker comes back and does. But to think about that, I mean, that's a Stan Lee, Jack Kirby kind of sized run that 2 creators did in modern superhero comics. We don't see that often anymore. I think probably the closest we've had in the last 10 years is Snyder and Capullo. They do like a 52 issue, Batman run. But even creators who stay on titles for that amount of time, like Dan Slott didn't write every issue of his Spider-Man, his 10-year Spider-Man run. And before that, it was probably Bendis and Mark Bagley doing the Ultimate Spider-Man, because they broke the Stan and Jack Fantastic Four record. So to look at not only this happening in a superhero comic from the year 2002 that ended only like a year ago, something like that, but for it also to be an independent book is incredibly impressive. Just whether you like the material or not, like, you have to respect it. It just so happens that I also love the material, and it has a level of confidence in it and boldness that I, as a writer, can see. And it, like, the way that, as it goes on, especially, I don't know how much of this is in the first 4 issues, but especially as it goes on, they handle certain plotting moves very, very deftly. And they just kind of they hand wave things when they need to hand wave them, but they also give you enough information on other things that are important for you to buy in as a reader to keep going. And that shit is so hard to do, because if you fall on either side of that balance beam too far, the whole story you topple, right? Like, if you're explaining too much about something that really doesn't ultimately matter to the overall story, you lose people. If you don't explain something enough that is very important and integral to the ultimate story, you lose people because they're confused. So to navigate that the way that they do, and sometimes, like, Kirkman writes scenes that happen in less than a page. Like, he'll move through. And I'm the only other person I've seen do this with that kind of level of confidence is Brubaker. But so much of that is also because Ed narrates his books so tightly that it allows him to move through different scenes rather quickly, because it's a different style of writing. Tom King does it a little bit too, just by the nature of the way he uses narration. But so I was totally hooked just looking at that stuff, from the finer mechanics of doing stuff like that to gags that I don't know how they probably played monthly, but reading them in one sitting in collected editions are so awesome. Like, in issue 1, the way, like, on page 2 or 3 or whatever it is, when Mark is taking out the trash behind the burger restaurant, and he goes to toss it in the trash, and it goes straight up to the guy, and it cuts down to Mark, and he goes, well, it's about time. And you realize, like, oh, this is his moment of manifesting superpowers. Well, a couple issues later, the book is in London at night, and all of a sudden a bag of trash crashes down into the street out of nowhere. It's the fucking bag that Mark threw in issue 1. And so this keeps happening like throughout the series. And like a religion starts in London around these items that fall from okay. And then from there, like, so there are recurring gags like that. The book never holds your hand. Like that gag I just mentioned, I would be terrified to pay that off 5 issues later because you wouldn't remember how it was set up. My instinct would be like, well, we have to reset it up in this very issue that we're looking to pay it off. But there's so much confidence in the way that Kirkman does it. And then there's a villain, there's an elephant kind of themed villain that Mark fights, and he keeps fighting throughout the run, but he never remembers the guy. Like every time someone's like, oh yeah, I fought, what were you doing earlier? Oh, I was like, the whatever elephant was doing what? And Mark's like, who? He's like, the whatever elephant, you fought him like a bunch of times. Like, no, it doesn't ring a bell. Like there's just, after a while, there's just so many,
Yeah.
It's just stuff like that. It plays with its form. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but then it takes itself very seriously. And the action gets to be some of the biggest and craziest superhero action I've ever seen on the page. So just all in all, it was a real joy for me to dive into. And I'm excited for you guys who have not read it or have only just read these first 4 issues, because they're good, but what the series becomes is so much greater than how it starts.
Yeah. So, I mean, from what you're saying, it's almost like these 4 were the epilogue. It's like this is what, or not epilogue, prologue. Like, It's like you need to understand that, and this is in the first 4, so not spoilers for the rest. So if you went away, welcome back. But this first 4 is very much, here's this kid, here's his life. It's almost, I would say, slow by comic book standards, and not in a boring way. But just they're just setting up some things, and they are setting up things like Kyle was just saying, some gags, or like getting you comfortable with the way that this is going to be written. And so it's like, here's Mark, and his family saves people, and his dad came from another planet to save people. And so you set that up pretty early, and yeah, things become. He is. Oh, Tommy is back. Sorry, pause.
Hey guys.
So yeah, it's quite interesting to look at from like a prologue perspective, and then the writing. You have to really appreciate everything you were saying about this format is not a format like of comic books. It's not a format that's ever been made to binge. It's always been a weekly or a monthly format. So it's interesting that you reading it as a binge, and that is the way of TV. You're seeing TV is now being created for binging, not for episodes every week. So I'm interested to see kind of the future of comics, if it's going to change, and things like that joke. Is that something even Kirkman would have done 10 years ago?
So I have opinions on this.
Yeah.
So the first 6-7 issues of Invincible are very much done in ones. And then it becomes a sprawling, because the book started to get successful, Robert was able to steer the narrative more in the direction that he was really excited by, which was one of those long running series with all of these subplots that are kind of running underneath and simmering, and things swap out. It's a very kind of like, in some ways, it's kind of like the Paul Levitt school of plotting an ongoing series, where you have A, B, C plots. And as your A plot gets resolved, your B plot becomes your A plot, and your C plot becomes a B plot. And you introduce a new runner underneath. That's how he did Legion of Superheroes for years. So there's quite a bit of that in Invincible, but something you just touched on, Alana, that I find really interesting, and I've had a lot of conversations about with other creators and publishers is that during the 2000s in general, we taught people to stop reading monthly comics. We taught them to wait for the trade. And the way we did that is by how we wrote stories, how we structured things. And there are so many comics. There are so many monthly comics, monthly superhero comics that I flip through, and it's barely half an issue's worth of content. And it's all just like cliffhanger after cliffhanger. Nothing actually happens, and people banter, and writers write their personality, and that's kind of it. And narratively, there's nothing satisfying in that single issue. And so there's no reason to incentivize someone to pick up the monthly issue anymore in a lot of cases. And look, if you want to write for trade, that's totally fine. Like that's something, there's nothing wrong with that, other than you need to be aware that you're not incentivizing stores and readers to pick up those individual issues anymore. And those are the lifeblood of not only the industry, but I would argue the medium itself. So that's something that I've actually been really kind of wrestling with actually throughout quarantine, just assessing the way that I structure things. And even like Alana, to say like that the garbage gag, like getting paid off 5 issues later, like that's awesome. But there's also, as I was kind of talking about a few minutes ago, like there's a part of my brain going like, but it has to work in the issue that it's going to get paid off in. So how do I set it up again so that you only need to read that one issue? When I did Power Rangers and specifically the Shattered Grid big event, I was very, very careful that everything you needed to know about a character, I was introducing it. You didn't need to ever watch the TV show. You didn't need to go hunt down old seasons or anything like that. My job was to contextualize this person so that you would understand the payoff I was trying to get to. And so through that lens, I think there are ways to write standalone stories that have the kind of like the undercurrent of a runner, where they do feel like they're adding on top of each other, but they are a narratively satisfying experience, like on their own, every single issue, every single month. Because I don't think otherwise just do an OGN. Don't even put out monthly issues. You know, but I know why everyone puts out monthly issues, because it's financially impossible to just do OGNs. But if you're gonna write for the monthly format, utilize the monthly format to its fullest advantage. That's kind of my opinion.
For sure. I think the instance of the garbage gag, which for Tommy, because you were stepped out, like when he's like, oh, it's about time, because he throws the garbage.
Yeah, what the fuck, Tommy? Just as I was
yeah, just as we went live, your stupid power had to go out again.
Am I allowed to explain that? I don't know how much you guys saw, but as you said, we're going live. All of my lights started flickering like really intensely, and I have no idea how much of that you guys saw, but it was terrifying. It was like I was in a horror movie for a second. But happy to be back. I had to go do the generator thing like in Last of Us 2. And we're all good.
What part of the country are you in that you're on a generator?
I'm in New York. We had like literally like a 2-hour horrible storm yesterday and knocked out the power for like everyone around here. But now it's beautiful out. It's like 80 degrees and super sunny. So everyone's walking around, but no one has power. So hopefully the generator stays in. A weird fetch quest this morning to go get gas from the gas station. I felt like I was in like Last of Us or something.
Yeah.
But
anyway.
I've never played Last of Us, but I bought it and I was gonna start it during quarantine, not knowing what it's about other than hearing it's amazing. And I had multiple friends tell me it's probably not like the most emotionally stabilizing game to play during the pandemic.
Yeah.
You need to play it, but yeah, if you're not there, don't put yourself at risk. But anyways, what I was gonna say is that garbage thing in particular, it didn't feel like half a joke. You know, you didn't feel like you were missing out on the punchline. And I think that's the important part, is that he's not setting up things that you feel like you're missing the answers to. He's setting up things, and then he's coming back to that moment. And so it's almost more like an Easter egg, right? It's those people that watch the MCU movies over and over and have those YouTube videos that Matt watches like crazy, and it drives me insane. And it's like, well, did you see in the background of this one that the logo for this was on this? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't care.
Who does this?
There's like YouTube videos all over, but like my partner will watch all these, like all the Easter eggs you missed in Spider-Man. And it's like, are they Easter eggs, or are they? So it's like Tony Stark wears a black tank top in this scene, and then he wears it in this scene as well. And you're like, or it's just he wears a black tank top.
Yeah,
like,
I hate that shit. I'm so cynical about that. Like,
well, there are Easter eggs, sure, but there are times that it's just a thing. Like, it's not an Easter egg that the same cola brand keeps reappearing. It's that they don't have the license to Coca-Cola, and so instead of them having a random Coca-Cola-esque brand, they make one that they use throughout the universe. It's not really an Easter egg that you keep catching that same logo. Like, I don't know. Anyways.
It's like video games do the Easter eggs better, I think. Because it's like you're guiding the character.
There's a difference between an Easter egg and just an element of the story. But anyway, so that's the thing is like, yeah, like the garbage does not feel like an Easter egg. It doesn't feel like half a joke. It's just a moment that happens that if you are that kind of reader that either reads back or is binging it, or you just remember 5 issues later, then there is extra emotional payoff. But for the readers that aren't, you still don't feel like then 5 issues later you've missed on the joke either, right? Like that's I mean, and that's a good writer. And that's probably and this is kind of both my first thoughts and just something that I enjoyed about it. And it was, you were talking about it in your spiel, Kyle, but like you can definitely feel like this is someone that is like, okay, this is the story and it's going to take this long to finish, or about this long, and I know that these beats need to hit around this time, and then I can fill in the stuff that I need to fill in, or, you know, this would be a cool plot point. Like, you can definitely feel that in the pacing, which I really appreciate. Something that I typically don't like. I'm in general a big 2 hater, or like a superhero book hater, and it's not that I hate superheroes, it's that I hate this idea, the like supernatural syndrome where it's like 15 seasons in and all the characters have died 4 times. Like, if you're gonna write in these moments, if you're gonna have these elements happen, you kind of have to commit to the gag. And one of the things when I was first learning about comics and Robert Kirkman specifically is I remember either reading or watching an interview in which he goes like, one of the stupidest things I ever did was having Rick have his hand cut off in the comics, which is why you don't see it in the show. And he's like, not that in the show it matters, but in the comics, that would end up being like a whole nother page of panels of him handing a can to Carl, so Carl can open the can and hand it back to his dad. And he's like, it didn't matter. So like, yeah, he's like, it worked, but then there were so many scenes that he was like, this is unnecessary, but you can't just go back on it. Right. So that kind of thinking is probably where this kind of long format, he has a plan and he knows how long it needs to be. And he's proven that he is successful. And like you said, after these first 4 issues or so, and this particular book is successful, he was given more of a range, I would assume.
So that's the crazy thing, is that's actually not how it happened at all. Like, so this book started before Robert was Robert. I mean, I think he launched this before The Walking Dead, actually. I'm pretty sure he did. He absolutely did. And it wasn't doing great sales-wise. And it was that twist that I just told you guys about. Well, sorry, you were out, unfortunately.
I was busy.
Yeah. But the twist is that at issue 6 or 7, I want to say, might even be issue 5. His Mark's father, who was Omni-Man.
Extra spoilers. Yeah. Go away now. Come back in 2 minutes. Anyways.
Mark's father murders the world's Justice League equivalent. And it's revealed that he is actually a Viltrumite, like great warrior who came to Earth to prepare it to be conquered.
Oh.
So Mark's father becomes his main villain. And that twist originally, Kirkman figured he would do that around issue 25.
Huh.
And as the book was kind of flailing, I believe it was Jim Valentino, who's the publisher of Image, told him, like, that's a great, no, do that in the next issue. You should have done it last issue ago. And so he did. So he moved it up. But what that means is he didn't necessarily have a big plan that, like, so much of it is figuring it out as you go. And I remember when I was writing Nightwing, it was like my first ongoing series. And I had come from a screenwriting background, and I'd never written an ongoing series. I was in the midst of writing my first mini series at that point. And I reached out to Mark Waid, and I was like, so how do I structure an ongoing series? Like, because Mark was doing his amazing Daredevil run at the time. And I was going like, do you like structure the character arc for across each mini series, like across each story arc, but then the character arc is getting added onto as a big mega arc in the whole run? Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I do this? And he wrote back and he's like, I think you're overthinking this. He goes, so much fun of writing an ongoing monthly comic is leaving room to surprise yourself. And he gave like the biggest name drop of all time. He's like, Grant and I, Grant Morrison. He didn't say that part, but that's in my head. He's like, Grant and I talk about this all the time, that your subconscious will leave breadcrumbs. Your consciousness will be, don't be afraid to leave some breadcrumbs for your subconscious to find a way to connect, because it all ends up being woven together in the tapestry of your kind of creative imagination, your mind. And so knowing that, like, he figured he'd reveal Mark's dad was this conqueror around issue 25 means there wasn't really a plan, not in the tight way that the series ends up becoming. It gets messy in the middle, and then you can see storylines start to really coalesce into what the back third of the book becomes. And Kirkman, I saw an interview with him after it all wrapped, after I finished reading everything, because I had that same question, like how much it was planned out ahead of time, etc. And he said he always envisioned Invincible as being a character that he would hand over to another writer and another creative team would come on. But the more he did, the more he wrote, at a certain point, started to see the possibility of an ending. And he was like, oh, I think I'm going to go do that, and that's the other thing that I love about the book so much is that the characters age. One thing I didn't realize, but for the first 10 years of Image, all those characters age in real time. They might still, it's Savage Dragon's been dead for a long time. It's his son now that's the star of the book, but Spawn has aged. I just love that. That's such a cool, you can't do that in big two comics,
It's a lot harder, for sure. Kelly said she wasn't necessarily going to read more, but now that she knows the twist, she knows she needs to read more. And I would agree. I kind of was it's just kind of a superhero comic. Yeah, there's interesting elements to it, and I like that I don't know anything about this character, but it's fine. And then, yeah, you telling me, which we will end spoiler warning, so let's try not to talk about it, but the kind of the inciting incident, I guess, not really a twist.
Yeah.
It's kind of too early to be a twist, but the thing that happens in volume 2, it definitely changes things. It becomes more about instead of just being like, here's a person with their values, it's now like, here's a person who was raised by someone with these values who then echoes these values and then has that shattered. And then it's a coming of age, really, is what I admit.
Well, what happens when dad tries to recruit son?
Yeah. There's so much that, so now I need to read it.
I've been recommended this book so many times, and everybody has said, like, read the first 2 trays before making up your mind on it. Because it gets kind of violent later, too, doesn't it?
It gets very
violent. Yeah.
very violent.
Which you wouldn't imagine from just, like, this first trade.
No.
Only one, though. Like, they're killing. There's
no, it gets
like a
murdered. Like,
it gets violent in a way that, like, you're like, oh my. There are moments where I actually, and this is how a page turn reveal should work. There are moments where I turn a page and I went, legitimate. And I've been writing superhero comics for 10 years, okay? Like, professionally for 10 years. Like, I'm telling you, like, there's
like
stuff.
Nothing shocks you anymore, and then this shocked you.
Yeah, and
I've been having that on Attack on Titan. Just gonna say it. We read that like 2 weeks ago, and I'm still reading it. And I'm like, oh yeah, called that. I'm like texting everybody that reads it and knows it. and then I'll flip the page, and I'm just like, what in the shit? Yeah, those are the best moments. Those are the best moments.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that. But then also, again, it ends up doing for as kind of like self-aware and like winking to the audience as it is. It'll get incredibly serious, and the action, some of the wars, some of the battles, and then the big wars are some of the best superhero comics I've ever read. I mean, and I include all of the greats when I say that. I mean, it's just the things they do. There's a battle with the first battle. You'll see it when you get to it with a character called Conquest. You'll know it when you get to it.
Yeah, Chris is saying in the comments he was told the twist before he ever read it, and that was the thing that made him want to pick it up. And it's now one of his favorite series. And then he added on that it's one of the most bloodiest, most violent series he's ever read.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Hard. And I like, because people will read this one and they're like, don't think that this is a comic you can recommend to kids, right? Because you'll read the first volume and be like, well, like within an age range, I feel like you could recommend the first volume. But they're like, no, this is not a kid's series. Like, it gets very gruesome. But this book is constantly on the like best comics of all time. Like,
it's pretty up there for me. I think it's.
Yeah. I've not heard anyone speak poorly of it that's read it.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot. It's a big buy-in too. I mean, it's 144 issues, and because it's a creator-owned book, it came out through Image. You don't go, well, where's a good jumping on point? That's another interesting kind of wrinkle with a book like this. Is like on any other character, any other superhero, especially a big two anyway. You go like, well, where's a good jumping on point? Like who? Oh, Snyder Capullo. That's a good go read their run on Batman. Or, yeah. I mean, obviously nothing Donnie writes, but Charles Soule. Sometimes you go like, oh, check out Charles' Death of Wolverine. Like that's a good Wolverine run to jump on. I guess Donnie's Silver Surfer or his Venom. It actually is pretty good. It's really good.
He's not going to watch this. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, he is never going to watch this. Is it? Until now, one of you are going to send it to him.
He still won't watch it.
Yeah.
He'll read your message, but he will not write back.
I'll send it to Megan, and then it'll get watched.
But no, it's interesting. Like then you look at something like this, and you never, because it's one writer, it's an Image book as well. There's something about that association where you just like anyone I know who's considered reading Invincible, they're never like, there's a new arc, I'll pick up the new arc. It's like,
right.
Well, now there isn't, but yeah, it's like, no, you got to start at the beginning. I'd be really curious. I'll have to ask I'll ask Image or Kirkman sometime, like, how many readers do you think you picked up like mid-story?
Yeah.
Versus readers that went and started at the beginning. I'd be really, really curious to know.
I think it becomes one of those things like a TV show. I remember being recommended Game of Thrones when it was coming out, and I like owned the books like in mass market. I was like, I'll read the books and then I'll whatever. And people were like, no. And it's like I at no moment was I like, oh, it's season 3 of Game of Thrones, I'm going to start from this episode. It was like, okay, I'm committing to this. So yes, it is gaining popularity, in season 2 and 3, but I'm going to start it at season 1. So it's probably similar with this book, and just in general, like you're talking about. This is, if you are being recommended it, you're not jumping in at issue 83. You're jumping in at issue 1 and catching up with your friend who's at issue 83. Tommy, what were your thoughts on the first 4 issues here?
I kept going, so I feel like the volume 1 and 2 are kind of blurred together now, but I definitely didn't get to the part where his dad turns evil, but as we were talking about, that makes me want to continue now. I didn't want to continue before, but now I have like a thing. Nothing. It's like watching Star Wars and being like, how is Darth Vader Luke's dad? I want to get used to that. I'm gonna keep watching the movie. It's pretty interesting.
I have a friend who saw Jedi before he saw Empire.
Huh.
I feel like everyone has their how did you find out about Darth Vader being Luke's dad moment. And mine is I was playing with an episode 1 Anakin Skywalker toy, which literally doesn't do anything. You're playing with the toy of a toddler, but it's fine. And it was a little bowl cut. I was like, hey, let's move it on a little bit. But my mom pointed to him and she goes, that's the evil guy with the helmet, Luke's dad. And I was like, okay.
She spoiled it?
And she spoiled the whole thing. But that was fine. I forgot I was even going with this. Oh no, I'm excited to read it. The first few issues, it was one of those things where if I had read it on its own back in the day, like when it first came out, I don't know if it would have grasped me. It felt more like it was a cool like introduction to superheroes as a whole. Kind of like if you watched like Sky High when you were a kid, you're like, oh, it kind of.
That movie was ahead of its time.
It was.
Very.
Love that freaking movie. I watch that every weekend. Anyways, sorry.
It's okay. We can turn this into Sky High.
Sky High.
We can totally do that. I'm down for that. It's better than Twilight.
Why did they make 5 movies out of it then? Huh? Exactly.
Sky High knew when to call it a day. Okay.
Are there Twilight fans here?
What?
I like the book. I liked the books. Not a fan of the movie. Atlanta likes the movie.
Not to go fully into it. The whole conversation we had that became like a joke is that my argument.
Just hit mute now, or
no, my argument is if you think that it's okay that people can like the Fast and the Furious movies or the Transformer movies because it's just fun and you just watch it for fun. You don't watch it because they're good. Like you just watch them because they're whatever. Then you also can't be mad at people who watch Twilight. It's the same thing. It's just for a different viewership. It's for a different age group. Like don't like Twilight personally, but don't sit here and tell me that it's the worst thing ever. Because I probably think that some of your stuff is the worst stuff ever.
We almost got to talk about Sky High. We
were so Twilight.
Anyway. I don't think there's anything redeeming about Twilight, but I also don't watch it.
There was 13 years ago when there was no other media like that for people like me.
Sparkly vampires?
Sky High. Sky High. Sky High. Sky High.
No, it's the only sci-fi and fantasy series that was mainstream at the time that was made for female readers. It was targeted towards young female readers. It got a shit ton of young girls into sci-fi and fantasy, and now we're like the biggest demographic of nerds. We're the biggest demographic. Adult women are the biggest demographic of video game players in the entire world.
I don't actually believe what I said. I was just.
I know, but I'm
fired up now.
I just want to talk about
back to Sky High.
Who's your favorite character from Sky High? Mine's War and Peace because he's troubled but fixable. Everyone share their favorite.
I don't remember anyone's name.
That's a great name. I like the girl because she was in a bunch of Disney stuff too.
The one that's also in the Flash now?
I don't
Yes,
watch
yeah.
The Flash. I'm looking it up.
That's
You know,
what it is.
she's the only teenage girl. There's one adult woman and one teenage girl, right? Am I wrong?
I mean, there's more than 2 girls in the whole cast, but wait, what was I talking
yeah,
about?
It's
I'm
the
sorry.
last
The ginger one. I like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pen Vapor.
Yeah.
So
And
this
then
book,
I liked that Wonder Woman was in it as the principal. Anyway,
this book was good. This was a good book.
don't get me fired up.
No Twilight, but
It's not Twilight, but it's definitely not Twilight. But no, I think now
it
that I
actually
know
has more
about
blood than Twilight.
More violence.
Yeah.
the last Twilight movie has quite a lot of violence. They just don't show it, which is interesting. Anyway,
There are really awkward babies in this book too, though.
no, I did I watched I know I'm going to talk about Twilight. No,
Tommy?
I'll just say I watched the movies.
Come back.
Okay, one of my favorite moments in this book was that I was, because again, I'm like, ugh, I don't really like superheroes. I hate these tropes, blah, blah, blah. I'm so sick of it, blah, blah, blah. And the one teenage girl like goes and she's like, we gotta go change here. And don't worry, no one ever looks to the sky. And I'm like, you're not wearing a mask. Is this a sexist thing? Is it because you're a girl and you have to be pretty and show your face? Or is this just a stupidity thing? And then it's like in the last, so in issue 4 or whatever, they walk into the bad guy's house who turns out to be one of their teachers. And he's like, oh, like, I forget her name, but like, come on in. And Mark, come on in. And they're like, how did you know? And he's like, you're not even wearing a mask. That was probably my favorite moment. Because I was like, yeah, you're not, what's the point? What's the point of wearing a disguise if you're not going to disguise your? At least the Clark Kent thing is at least the Zoe Deschanel effect, where it's like without her bag and glasses, you don't know that it's Zoe Deschanel.
People are always confusing
What was Clark Kent?
Katy Perry.
Yeah, Katy Perry. Yeah, all these different people. It's like, you know what? I start to believe it. I still don't think Clark Kent has an excuse, but at least he has glasses and then doesn't have glasses. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't change her hair color, nothing.
Wait, what's Katy Perry? What?
Oh my God.
No, I was just saying that you can either confuse him for Katy Perry or Zoe Deschanel.
I don't.
I'll send you.
Basically the same person.
Hooligans. Crazy
But
people.
anyways, that was that, and then I did love the trash. Like those moments were the ones that I really liked about this book, and it made it feel like what you were saying, Kyle, about it's not taking itself too seriously while still being kind of like a love story to the genre. Like this is what the genre is about, but let's not even poke fun at it, but just like be like, hey, we're aware this is happening. And I really liked those moments.
Back to the, like, if someone were to jump in at a random other point, the stuff that you were saying that pays off as you go along, that would hit a lot less, I think, if you didn't read, say, like the beginning with the garbage, right? So it's like, I wonder if you would miss it. I don't think the overall series would feel quite the same if you don't, I think, continue on, just because of those little points that you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think now.
So I'd be interested.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just, if there was someone that we could ask, right, that did do that, and be like, how did you feel about this? Or like, what did you read into it? Or did you go back and look or Google it or something, right? Because it is that. It's like, I don't know. I feel like you missed something.
I just sent him the pictures, so I think he's looking at them.
Yeah, I'm confused.
But like, so this is Zoe Deschanel with glasses and bangs, and then the one next to it, and we could probably tweet this or something, but the one next to it is her without glasses and bangs. And I've seen this picture 1,000 times, and I still don't believe it's the same person. And then I also sent the one where it's like the 6 celebrity girls that all look the same.
Wait,
Yeah,
is it the same person?
My Katy Perry reference.
Are these all Katy Perry?
No, those are all different. Zoe Deschanel, they're all those people.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, but they just look so similar that you're like, is it just the dark hair and bangs?
It's like brunette white girls with anime eyes.
Oh, I wish I had anime eyes. No, but Mandy and I always joke about this too, especially when I was blonde. Like every week, someone would be like, "Oh my God, you look just no, I swear, you look just like people that are like willing to like sell their babies because I look identical to someone. And then they tell me, and it's someone random I've never heard of before, to the point that I had like a list going, and it was 30 celebrities that people swore I looked just like. And I was like, no, it's blondes with like somewhat typical features that are white girls. Maybe have a gap. It's not even the glasses. The glasses thing is newer, but yeah, I got like Ronda Rousey, Christina Applegate, Avril Lavigne, the girl from Supergirl, the girl from James Bond. I'm just like,
isn't Ronda Rousey like 5'11" and like jacked?
It's Ronda Rousey is my jawline. I totally get that. I totally get the Ronda Rousey. But someone
looks like someone
like Snooki from True Blood. I'm like, what is it? Because she was blonde and has a gap.
Oh, Anna Paquin. I could see that one.
See, but like
it's the gap.
People, they're like, you look just like, and it's just this like phenomenon of just people. I mean, I don't want to say it's like racism, like where people are like, oh, they all look the same, but like kind of all white girls look the same. Like we kind of do, especially with makeup and stuff. Like you look at Instagram and like everybody is the same person. And then all the Snapchat filters make you look even more like the same person. And then maybe I'm a superhero. Who knows?
I sent a photo. I thought I saw, I actually do think it was this person. There was a photo that showed up on Twitter during quarantine, like towards the beginning of quarantine, especially. No, yeah, just during quarantine of like when you absolutely were not supposed to see anyone. And it was like a group gathering outside someone's, window, like in an apartment in Burbank. And I click on this photo, and then all of a sudden I'm looking, and it's from far away, and I'm like zooming in. I'm like, that's my ex. Like yeah, that's my ex. And I still think it absolutely was. But I texted it to a friend of mine, and I was like, look who it is. And he goes, a generic white girl brunette in LA. And I was like, no, it's something. He's like, there's a million people who look like your ex based on what you have dated. And it's just I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure. Like, I know, but that's not the first time people have called me out on that. So,
Alana, weren't we somewhere that we saw someone that looked exactly like Charles Soule? I feel like it was like he for sure wasn't in the city we were in, and this person was like to the T. Like we
I
were
feel like it's super weird too. It was like Mexico. We're like on vacation in freaking wherever we were, and we're like, is that Charles Soule? And it's like, no.
Oh, I'll do one. I'll do not one better, but one that's even crazier is that I went to film school with the Duffer Brothers who did Stranger Things. Oh, wow. So like we were good friends in our last year at film school together, but and we've like emailed stuff over the years, but like we haven't seen each other since film school. And 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and we'd been back in touch and everything, but a year and a half ago, I'm at the ArcLight in Hollywood to see a movie, and I'm on a date. And we're walking down to see a movie, and which is a whole other crazy story because the movie I thought we were seeing was not the movie we were actually seeing. And I didn't realize it until about 4 minutes in. And I'm thinking that we're watching a political movie starring Hugh Jackman. I thought we were there for the front runner. It turned out I was like, wow, 1700s, like England. This is a really bold opening for, and then it just keeps going and going. And I turn, I'm like, what is this again? And she's like, oh, The Favorite. I was like, that is not the movie I thought.
The Favorite is so good.
It was very good. But I was
expecting Taylor Swift's boyfriend in it.
I mean, it's not the most comfortable movie to watch on like a second date. Anyway, but before that, like we're heading down to the theater, and I'm like, oh, there's Matt and Ross, the Duffers, and I walk up to them, and now this is not just do they look like my friends. There are two of them as well that look identical to two other people. And I was like, hey. And they're like, hey, and I'm like, how are you guys doing? And they're like,
Oh, this isn't even like from a distance. This is like
I'm this close. And I was like, and then I realized, like, because I have a little bit of a facial blindness thing anyway. Like, I almost ran over Harrison Ford and didn't know it. And I was like, you're not Matt and Ross. They're like, no. I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, I swear to God, like Stranger Things, like I don't. So we left, and I looked like I had seen a ghost. And the girl I was with was like, what? What is going on? I was like, I think I'm going crazy because I swear to God, those are the. It's not like I saw one person. I was like, oh, it's one of the brothers. There were two of them together. And I Googled, I pulled up their picture, and I showed her before I was settling in for 1700s England with violins and wide angle lenses that were very obnoxious, but art. And I showed her the picture, and she goes, they're fucking with you. That's absolutely that. So I went back up.
No.
And it still wasn't them.
That's so funny. My mom, sorry to keep going on this. My mom sent me this picture, and she said, is this you? And did someone steal your picture? And again, I can like show you guys it. But my mom, she has a mask on and my glasses, but like she's like, that's your face. And I was like, you know what? Of all the people have thought I was, I'll take it. Anyways, Chris did say that the first episode of Book Club, I said I was Mandy, so even I get confused between white girls. So fair enough.
I mix up Mandy.
And Missy. I know.
Please don't take this the wrong way, but I mix you and Missy up.
You've said that to me before.
I can't keep it. At a certain point, something clicks over for me, and then I'm able to distinguish. But for some reason, the name Missy and Mandy, I know you're two different people. Like, obviously.
He'll be like, which one has the kid? And I'm like,
that's the thing. But you're friends with both. And so there was a time I was at WonderCon in Anaheim, and I totally should I not tell the story? Maybe I should tell the story.
You've told me.
Oh, have I? Okay. All right.
I don't think Missy watches, but she has been a guest before.
It took about 5 minutes, or no, it took like a couple interactions where I was realizing, I was like, oh, this is not.
Because you borrowed her phone charger and everything.
I borrowed her phone charger.
Yeah, thinking she was Mandy.
Thinking it was you.
Yeah.
I don't know how. There was a lot going on at that convention. It was my fourth. It was my fourth in 4 weeks, and I was getting ready to go do a fifth, and it was like I was out of it, and then I was like, but I'd only met her in Calgary. I want to say
you met them both. I think the same weekend,
Calgary,
which is where I think it got messed up.
Yeah.
So you realized, because you told me like the following convention, you're like, I confused you for Missy.
Yeah. I'm sorry to all M lettered
at conventions. If I'm working at Marguerite's booth, always they think
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
"You're way taller than me." I was like, it's just that we both have like blonde hair, like long blonde wavy hair, but no.
I mean, I always forgive fans at conventions because you don't, like, why would you know what someone looks like? Like, I don't know what these people look like except for the ones that I know or become, like, famous other ways or I've seen an interview. But it's like the average fan, like, if Tommy and Kyle, like, if Tommy was helping Kyle's booth, I wouldn't know the difference. Not because I can't see the difference, but it's because how would I know?
So I have a friend who he's a writer as well, and we both end up working at the same exact coffee shop all the time, and sometimes sit like next to each other, across from each other. There's a lot of writers that work in there.
I thought you meant like work at the like. I was like, I thought you were a professional comic.
Look, things aren't great right now. Okay? Here, I'm going to send this to you.
I'm assuming you means me.
Yeah. So people have straight up come up to us and they are convinced we're brothers. And then on top of that, people have had conversations with him thinking he's me. Like full on conversation, and then reference shit to me later. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, And then they realize like, oh, I thought I talked to you. Like someone didn't talk to me for like 6 weeks and I thought we were like not on speaking terms, but he'd been talking to Marshall the whole time. Does that?
Are they okay?
It's hard to show on this, but I can see it. No.
That's an old photo of him too.
No, I mean,
Anyway,
you guys have grows and what
I don't think we look alike at all, but
yeah. Which kind of leads into we're at the end of our hour here, so that went by very quickly, which is awesome. So just to talk about Kyle again for a sec, he's got some really cool projects, both coming up and in the past. We mentioned a bunch of his comic work, but one of the things that I really loved that he did, just talking about kind of doppelgangers, is he did this really cool short movie, I guess, short movie, which is on the IGN YouTube channel, but we can probably tweet that out. So that's definitely worth a watch. I think that's one of the coolest things I've seen out of Kyle. So for sure, check that out. And yeah, it's about twins.
She hasn't read any of my stuff. She hasn't. I know she hasn't.
So that's about twins that I don't know how much of this is spoilers, but they kind of live one life. And so just talking on doppelgangers, I thought that'd be a really cool little plug.
That's a nice segue, yeah.
A nice segue, yeah. Anything else that you can talk about that you want to plug, Kyle? I know you have some really cool stuff, but I don't know what's out yet.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I can talk about is just Ultraman. Ultraman's coming out from Marvel on September 9th. You don't need to know anything about it, but I'll put it this way. All you need to know is that Subaraya and Marvel are so excited about what we're doing on the book that they got Alex Ross to do our cover.
Ooh, we love Alex Ross here.
They're stunning.
Yeah, I mean, it's a book that my co-writer Matt Groom and I are super, super proud of. Francesco Manna is doing all the artwork, and if you liked what I did on Power Rangers, what we're planning on Ultraman makes that look quaint. So I think it's a series that I'm really excited for people to finally get a look at.
Cool. So
then there'll be some announcements on creator-owned books over the next 2 months. I think
the one that you showed me, right?
That one we'll be announcing that one probably in November. Cool. But there's something else that we might be talking about in September. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, cool. So basically forget that you heard Kyle's name for the next month, and then September is Kyle month.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Like I said, you can find him in most of your comic book shops as well as regular shops. I'll try to find that link, and I will try to tweet it out or put it in the description below for his shorts.
Oh, it's just theshadowhours.com.
Oh, theshadowhours.com.
Perfect.
So check that out, and I'll try to link it somewhere that you guys can see it. But it's really, I really liked it. And so, yeah, I think that's all for today, which is
awesome. Yeah, hold on. Christopher brought up something. So DC is putting out a big omnibus of my entire Nightwing run.
Ooh. Cool.
And if you can't tell from the giant poster over my shoulder, I am a huge Nightwing fan. So the fact that I got to write my own version of Nightwing for the New 52, I have mixed feelings about the book because the era that I was writing it in was very, very challenging. And I was still learning how to write, and there was a lot of editorial, we'll call it involvement. And it was just a tricky era to navigate learning how to write monthly superhero comics at DC in. But I did do 30 issues, and there's some stuff in there that I'm immensely proud of. And more importantly, the book made me a much better writer. And so very few people, the way I like to think about it now is that very few people get to have that kind of relationship with their all-time favorite character, where Dick Grayson made me a better writer. And so now that book, if I had not done that run and gone through what I went through doing Nightwing, I never would have been able to do what I attempted on Power Rangers. So now that book is all being collected, and it's kind of a really cool little moment because DC collected editions reached out to me. So I got to I was kind of involved in picking different quotes from the book and some of the key art, and I named the edition. And so this thing's going to come out, and it really is this snapshot of 3 or 4 years of my life, all in one edition, which I haven't had that before. Power Rangers kind of, sort of, but this in particular was a pretty hugely important moment in my career. So that'll be out in December. Again, I'm not sure when they're going to show or announce what it's called officially, but yeah, it was fun. So there you go.
That's awesome. Big year for you. That's exciting. Sweet. Okay, so I think that's it. I guess anybody have any recommendations similar to Invincible that if somebody liked it, they might like Invincible, or vice versa? Just really quick before we go. Sky High. What about, wasn't there that other one too? Wasn't there Zoom or something? That was the bad version of that movie, right?
I don't know. Maybe I erased that from my memory or something.
I've not read this, but I've heard people say if you like this to read Black Hammer. I can know.
See that.
I haven't read it. Yeah, I haven't read it myself.
That's Lemire's book, right?
Yeah.
Zoom. It's Tim Allen's Zoom Academy for Superheroes. It was really
cool. I don't want to see that.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, I think those are all great recommendations.
If you like Robert Kirkman, I think The Walking Dead's pretty rad. But it's far from this. I mean,
what's The Walking Dead?
Let me see.
Can I say Umbrella Academy without the blatant trauma? I mean, I just finished watching that second season, so that's all I'm thinking about.
No.
Anyways, you didn't watch it? You did watch it. I want to talk to you about it. Anyways, cool. This show was a mess. I'm so sorry, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. If you joined us live, awesome. We'll be back next week reading God Country with Chris Hacker, who will be our guest. And if you are watching this later on, that's also cool. Make sure to leave a comment. If you come join us, we try to do this every Wednesday. If not, that's cool. Watch this when you have time. Like I said, guest information down below. So that's Kyle's Instagram and Twitter are down below. I don't think he's using much very often, but if you want to check him out, you can for sure do that. As well as if you Google his name, he'll show up everywhere. So for sure do that. And then if you want to follow us at Near Mint, we have our information down below. So our socials as well as our website. We do put out a newsletter every Wednesday with original content, which is also featured on our website. So we'd love to see you around there as well. With that, I guess that's it. And Mandy, give us your signature sign off.
Send us off, Mandy. Send us off for the week.
Go pre-order Ultraman.
I like that one.
I like that one too.
Bye, guys.
You ready for these days?
Bye. Thanks, everyone.